You know what really grinds my gears? Bad trailers. Actually, a lot of things grind my gears. I complain about them all the time here on the podcast. But one of the things recently that really grinds my gears is bad trailers. And that may sound foreboding considering tonight's topic of discussion. However, I'll go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. I think that this trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine was extremely well done. I thoroughly dug the trailer. I think that it did its job, but enough of covering the lead. I want to go back to talking about bad trailers. Okay. So the point of a movie trailer, right, is to entice an audience enough to be willing to spend their money on something that they don't know entirely if they will enjoy or not. So the trailer should, for example, we'll say if it's an action movie, it should be able to show you its stunning visual effects with this crisp choreography, tight dialogue, maybe witty one-liners, and the whole point of it though is that it should give you a feel or an idea as to what the movie will be about to, again, further entice the consumer, that's you and me, to spend our hard earned money to go sit down for 2 hours or so and watch the movie. Once they get us in the theater, then they really don't care too much from there, but we're not talking about the the idea of making good movies. We're talking about the concept of making a good trailer for a movie. And I was seeing all of the reactions to the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, seeing everyone's, kind of thoughts and takes, and people pointing out different Easter eggs and theorizing, typical superhero movie stuff. And it got me thinking because I also saw people who weren't really that big of fans of the trailer. Maybe some people thought it didn't show enough or it didn't do enough. I'll talk about that in just a moment here. But right now, I want to talk a little bit about what happens when that shoe is on the other foot, when things go the opposite direction. We've all seen movie trailers that show too much. There's this movie that recently came out. I believe it's called Abigail. And I won't say too much more about it other than the trailer just completely spoils the bunch. Like, it just I won't say ruins the movie, but man, it completely takes the wind out of the sail because that's a pretty substantial twist in that movie that the trailer handedly gives away. So because the movie just came out, and I don't want to spoil that for anyone who's maybe planning on going to see that, I will talk about another movie, one that I was much more invested in when it came out, and one that let me down, and that would be Terminator Genesis. Now, don't get me wrong, Terminator Genesis is terrible, but somehow it's still only the second worst Terminator movie. The number one worst Terminator movie is still Dark Fate. That atrocity cannot be explained away. Anyways, besides the fact that Terminator Genesis was just not a good movie, even worse, it had an awful trailer. And the reason the trailer is so awful is because they completely give away the big twist, like the big thing that happens in the movie right in that little 90-second trailer or however long it was. And I won't go too long on this because some of you guys might not be well versed in Terminator lore or whatnot, but I'm pretty sure most of us get the gist of the concept of the Terminator. And it's the whole idea that there's this corporation, Skynet or Cyberdyne, that creates Skynet, and then it's this sentient AI that then goes rogue, and it makes these robots, and then there's the savior of the future. His name is John Connor, and he's leading the resistance. And the Terminator is like, well, if we can go back in time and kill this motherfucker, we don't have to worry about the resistance. That's kind of the whole theme and concept of the first one. Terminator goes back in time to send the old Arnold Schwarzenegger T-800 bot back in time to kill Sarah Connor. Hell, why kill John Connor? We can just kill his mom. Stop the motherfucker from being born. Sounds like a good idea to me. The resistance sends back Kyle Reese, who tries to thwart the Terminator together with Sarah Connor. They do so, and then we get the iconic Terminator 2, which is definitely where the series peaked. I mean, I'm sure that we are all very familiar about that movie and what happens there, but the whole concept of Terminator Genesis is we're getting more information again about the going ons of like what happens in the future, right? So the twist they give away here is that Jason Clarke, who I think is actually a really good actor, I think he's definitely underrated. He is cast as an older John Connor. I mean, he's not old, but he's clearly a full grown man. And in the trailer, they give away the twist that he has become a Terminator. They call him like a T-3000 or something like that. And I remember watching that trailer for the first time thinking, holy shit, they just, did they do that on purpose? Like, am I supposed to know this right now? And it didn't get me hyped. And so, as much of a shitty trailer as that is, maybe I just talked myself out of it, right? Because I was almost going to go spend money to see that movie in theaters. And I would have been extremely upset if I paid money to go see Genesis in theater and then they give me that shitty twist about John Connor, the savior of mankind, being a fucking Terminator and he's a bad guy now. I mean, what a fucking awful twist. But, it just goes back to show you that the trailer didn't do its job. Now, there's other versions of bad trailers as well. Like, on the opposite end of the spectrum, a good trailer has to give you something, right? Because another example of a bad trailer is a movie trailer that doesn't give you anything. Like, if I watch a trailer and, like, at the end of that 90 seconds or 2 minutes, 3 minutes, however long it is, if I still have no ungodly clue what the movie is about, you let me down. You let me down. I'll catch it when it comes on Netflix or wherever. But that's just the concept, right, of trailers. Presenting something in such a fast or short window to get people enticed enough to be willing to A, remember that the movie's coming out whenever it is, and B, getting them to spend time to put on pants, leave the house, pay money for a ticket, pay $87 for popcorn and a drink, and and watch the movie. It's a big ask, right? And the I guess the whole point of this, right, is it is kind of a balancing act, but I don't think it is a balancing act that is as hard as Hollywood pretends it is. A lot of it comes down, I think, to executives, right? I think a lot of these filmmakers have an idea of what they want the trailer to be. And I think a lot of the people who are putting up the money to get these movies made, these producers and executives, they're like, no, we have to give the people more because we want to make sure that they know what this is so that they come and see this. And so I get it. It's money versus creativity. That's always going to be the battle for movies and entertainment as a whole, right? What is creatively interesting and flavorful versus what will make us the most money. That will always be the battle. And now I'm sad. There was one more thing I wanted to talk about really quick before we get into the meat and potatoes of tonight's topic, and that is there have been people talking once again about the state of the MCU. I mean, clearly it's one of my favorite topics. I frequent it quite often. And I find it interesting that there are people who kind of bury their head in the sand to the bad of the MCU, right? There's a meme going around. And by the way, this is an updated meme from about a year or so ago. So they produced this meme basically whenever like something good comes out of the MCU to try to prove a point, right? And the whole concept of the meme is people complaining about the MCU being dead, and then in the meme we see like several projects in the MCU currently that state otherwise. Things that are supposedly pretty good in the MCU. And, so the whole notion of the meme is that people are complaining that the MCU has been dead since Endgame, and then we see a bunch of post-Endgame stuff that says, no, it's not. Um, the issue that I have with that is telling half truths and presenting it as like the unfallible complete truth when it's anything but. As a matter of fact, that meme is more or less a lie of omission. That would be like it's not fair to say that everything in the MCU post Endgame is trash because that's just not true. You know, you can say that you've lost interest in that for you the story of the Marvel Cinematic Universe wrapped up with Endgame, and that's fine. But to say that everything has been trash is also a lie. And it would be like this, right? Like imagine that you're in school again. I know it's hell, and you're taking a test, and the test has 15 questions on it, and you get 7 of the questions right. And when you get your test score back, you score like a fucking 55 out of 100 or whatever, a fucking 40 or whatever on the test. You don't score well, but when you take your test home, your scores home to your family or your parents, and you present it to them, you say, "Look at all these questions I got right," and you show them, 7 or 8 questions that you just knocked out of the park, but you are completely burying all of the other questions that you just fucked all the way up. That's kind of what this meme is doing, right? It's ignoring all of the low quality, low effort, just shitty products that the MCU has produced. And that's not to take away from the good that we've gotten post Endgame, but we cannot ignore all of the bad that we've gotten either. And by the way, in this example that I used about the test score, I was really being polite because in that scenario, I said that basically you got at least half of the questions right. That would mean that half of the things we've gotten in the MCU post Endgame have been good. And I don't know if I'm willing to subscribe to that notion. But yeah, it's one of those things where like, you don't want to piss in anyone's Cheerios. You know what I mean? Like if you like it, then I love it. And hell, it's a superhero homie rule that I'm gonna get to. One of these days, I gotta get back on that and finally finish out the homie commandments. But it's just one of those things, man, where I think that some people, maybe some people do feel that the MCU hasn't lost a step. I think that those people are maybe in denial. And yeah, I think that a lot of the other people, no, fuck it. I think they're all in denial, to be honest. I think they're all pretty much in denial. I mean, the MCU has certainly lost a step. It's not the same juggernaut that it once was. And they can blame it on superhero fatigue. They can blame it on bad storytelling. They can blame it on lack of continuity. They can blame it on this or that or several other factors, things that have changed since Endgame. But the fact of the matter is this: it's changed, and it's not as good as it once was. And the fact that we are getting some projects now that are good, yeah, that's a step in the right direction. But that doesn't mean that we're in the race again. So hopefully Marvel can continue their trend of producing good things. We can only lean on like No Way Home and X-Men 97 so much. There have been other good movies, and there's certainly been some good TV shows, right? There's been a few. I think that Hawkeye overall was pretty good. What If, especially season 1, was really good. And I mean, but there's been a whole lot of mid in there, and then there's been just some things, a lot of things that I can just do without. But with all that being said, homies, one and all, I want to welcome you guys back to another very special episode of the Superhero Homies podcast. My name is Quentin, and today we have a trailer to break down. I've been looking forward to this for a while now. I knew that the trailer was coming, and I was Really looking forward to seeing what this trailer would contain, and I gotta say, I am not disappointed. Again, like I was saying earlier, I think that this trailer is doing exactly what it needs to do. Look at it from this perspective, right? With a with a movie like Deadpool and Wolverine, you already have the audience. People are already going to come out and see this. All you have to do is remind people why they want to see this. That's it. Like, some movies really have to work in their trailers to get the audience to come in and see the movie. Deadpool and Wolverine doesn't have to do that. All this movie has to do is just be like, hey guys, we're going to be here in a couple months. So be sure you get your tickets when they are available. That's basically all this movie has to do. And it's because Deadpool is already such a popular character. And it's also because, obviously, Hugh Jackman returning as Wolverine is a huge deal. And also, this is the first rated R movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And so, yeah, people were really looking forward to this, and for good reason. You know, this is going to be something that doesn't have that atypical post Endgame MCU aftertaste. This is going to be something that has its own kind of flavoring, but is still tied to the MCU. So this is a pretty big deal. Pretty big deal for us comic book nerds out there. There are definitely some things in the trailer that we're going to have to talk about, and they're going to have to expound upon, and I cannot wait. So we will be watching this trailer together. I'm going to be playing it, and then I will be pausing at points to talk about certain things, throw out some theories, see how we feel. And yeah, I think it'll be a good time. All right, so with all that being said, before we get into the trailer, guys, if you have not already reviewed the podcast, please be sure to do so. 5 stars would be phenomenal. Hell, if you could give me more than 5 stars somehow, that would be great. But I think that it still only allows you a maximum of 5 stars. Anyway, that just helps the algorithm grow, and it helps more people see the podcast, and it helps this thing become bigger and more colossal. And it helps me to basically take over the nerd realm of this side of the internet, which I think is a great idea. You know, the villain never views himself as such, so I think I'm doing pretty good here. All right, with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get into the trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine.
I told you, you're not welcome here. You're not welcome anywhere. Now get the fuck out of my bar.
Just give me one more drink and then I'll leave.
Let's pause right there. Obviously, this is the opening of the trailer. And Wolverine he's at a bar. Go figure, right? And he's getting a drink. And the barkeep is he's being a little verbally abusive to Wolverine, telling him that he knows he's not welcome here. Assuming that you guys have already seen the trailer, maybe we can surmise from this that Wolverine did play a part in like the death of the X-Men, and maybe that negatively affected people from this reality. You know, I don't know. Just trying to figure out why this guy has such a hate boner for Wolverine. And it's one of those things where he's like, yeah, you know, you're not welcome here. And Wolverine's like, just give me a drink. And the guy, like, verbally, he's being very aggressive. Physically, though, he's not really doing anything that aggressive. And I think that's because he knows that Wolverine can still fucking gut him, could fucking unzip him like a jacket if he wanted to. By the way, man, it's just great seeing Hugh Jackman. From what I understand, also, this is a different Wolverine from what we saw in, like, the Fox movies, right? So, this is not the same Wolverine that we saw in, like, Logan, for example, which is great because I think that's a tremendous ending that shouldn't be touched. So, hopefully that is true, that this is like a Wolverine from a universe, maybe that Wolverine failed. You know, who knows? Who knows how it happened or why it happened? I think that maybe they could be going perhaps more in line with the comic book Old Man Logan. Just really quick, if you guys remember in that story, Wolverine was tricked by a souped up Mysterio into killing a lot of the X-Men. And for Wolverine, there was just no coming back from that. And so that sends him off into, kind of his own little exile and whatnot. And then obviously the world goes to shit with, Hulk taking over, becoming Maestro and all of his sick shit that he's doing. And then we get the whole story. Go check it out. It's a Mark Miller book. Really good book. Let's continue.
Hi, Peanut. I'm gonna need you to come with me right now.
Look, lady, I'm not interested.
All right, well, I'm sort of on the tick-tick, so upsy daisy. Here we go. Oh, whiskey dick of the claws. It's quite common in Wolverines over 40.
You don't want this.
Yeah, I do wonder what's going on with the claws there, right? And maybe I spoke too soon when I said that this isn't the same Wolverine from the Logan verse, as we'll call it. Because you guys remember at the beginning of Logan, he had problems extending claws, I think, on that same hand. And I wonder what that's about. Like, maybe that's just like a clever callback to Logan in that movie where he was having a hard time extending his claws on that hand fully. But I don't know. You do wonder though, like, is there a problem with him popping his claws in this movie? Like, you hope not, right? Because if this is the last time, or maybe the second to last time we get to see Hugh as Wolverine, we kind of want to see him, fully embrace Wolverine. Let's see those full fucking claws. Anyway, Deadpool's here now. He kind of snuck up, came out of nowhere, right? Full Deadpool attire. I think we can also assume that this is, Deadpool maybe doing some recruiting for the TVA, saying, hey, I got this mission. You need to join me. Another theory going around that I cannot take credit for, I just heard this one recently, is that maybe this is a rogue Wolverine. Like, maybe Wolverine was tasked by the TVA to go do some pruning, and he went rogue and said, fuck this shit, I'm not doing it, and then just kind of went his own way, tried to hide in his own little corner, and they're sending Wade after him. I don't know. Like, there's not a whole lot of juice behind that one, but it's potential.
Unless you want to take a deep breath through your fucking forehead, I suggest you reconsider. I'm about to lose everything that I've ever cared about.
Not my fucking problem.
Is that what you said when your world went to shit?
So I want to pause right here. So obviously we know that Logan and Wade will end up working together. To what end is still a little unclear. We know that it's going to have to conclude with Cassandra Nova. Actually, we spoke about her a little bit a few months ago on a comic news episode. We saw the back of her head, and I was able to kind of pick out that's got to be Cassandra Nova. And lo and behold, it is. I think that she's an interesting choice for a villain here. It's interesting to use Cassandra Nova in a movie that doesn't have Charles Xavier, because long story short, or like the simplified version, she's an evil twin of Professor X. As shown in the trailer, she does have a little bit of telekinesis though, so that's cool. But the reason I wanted to pause here is to take a look at some of those giant memorial grave stones in the background here in this shot. And we only get like a brief glimpse of it, man, but those have got to be like the fallen X-Men, right? And that is very reminiscent of Days of Future Past. If you guys go and take a look at that book, There's the shot where like there's just rows of headstones from mutants that have been killed. And this really reminds me of that. It really makes me wonder what happened here with this Wolverine in his universe that caused the death of all these other mutants, and how did he escape that same fate? Because even though Wolverine is more or less a tank of a character, he's not immune to death. Like, he can still die. You can still kill the motherfucker. Hell, a Sentinel kills him in Days of Future Past. He gets obliterated. If there's nothing to regenerate from, then there's no regenerating. Also, like, if the mutant power, if it comes from the pituitary gland, right, then if the brain is gone, then wouldn't the mutant abilities be gone too? Or am I just thinking too much about this? Anyways, I do wonder what led to the death of the mutants, and why is this version of Logan still alive? Because it's also not like Wolverine to run either. Like, he's not gonna run from a fight. Even if it's like the more tactical sound thing to do, if his teammates are either getting slaughtered, he's gonna be out there with him. He's not gonna run away for a tactical retreat. So I'm not sure exactly how he was able to avoid this fate. Maybe he was just elsewhere. There's a lot of times where Wolverine, he's in the X-Men, but he's not with the X-Men, like he's off doing his own things a lot of the time. So maybe he's just away, and maybe Cassandra Nova just obliterates them, and he's not there, and there's nothing he can do to prevent the death of what he considers his family.
Come again.
This Wolverine let down his entire world.
So this trailer certainly has a more serious tone than the first one, right? Like, the first trailer was more of from Deadpool's POV, and it seems like maybe this trailer is more from Logan's POV, hence the more serious tone that it has. And by the way, where we're at now in the trailer, we're seeing Wolverine and Deadpool have their fight. We're seeing them go at it, which we know we had to see, right? Like, could you imagine getting this movie and we don't see those two go at it? That would feel like a disappointment. So yeah, the fight looks like it's going to be pretty cool between those two. But I wanted to pause here for a second to talk about like the Fox Studios logo in the background that's destroyed. I mean, I understand that Deadpool is like the meta character, right? But to what purpose is a giant Fox Studios logo in the background? Like, we see it in the first trailer, and we see it here again, and I still can't wrap my brain around why that would exist in any universe. I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. But again, they are just continuing to reinstate that Wolverine let down the X-Men, and people are seriously shitting on and talking down on Wolverine in this trailer because I mean, it was the bartender, and now it was the TVA agent, and I mean, hell, even Wade made mention of Wolverine letting down his teammates. So I don't know.
Want to talk about what's haunting you, or should we wait for a third act flashback?
Go fuck yourself.
Life is a mystery.
I don't know anything about saving worlds, but you do.
It's great to finally see Hugh Jackman in the outfit, right? We said that when the set photos leaked. We said it again when the first trailer dropped, and I'm saying it again here. Like, he just looks tremendous, and the yellow and blue, man, like that it suits him. And we know that the mask is also in the movie as well. I'm talking about like his mask, not like Jim Carrey's The Mask. Yeah, it makes me wonder. we've heard rumors now for a couple of months. Is Daphne Keane going to be in this movie as X-23? Is little Laura going to come back? I think that would be great. She was tremendous in Logan, and I would certainly love to see her again in this. This trailer, we'll talk about this maybe a little bit more at the end, but it doesn't really give us a lot in terms of like cameos or whatnot. It kind of does if you're really paying attention, but a lot of this trailer doesn't, and I think that's fine. It doesn't have to. What this trailer is really doing is a lot of character work. It's really showing us the emotional and mental state of this version of Wolverine. So much of this trailer has been all about him dealing with grief, of him dealing with perceived shortcomings from apparently letting down his X-Men. And it seems like maybe the universe where Deadpool comes from, maybe, I don't know, maybe the deal he's making with the TVA is that if he doesn't clean this up, then his universe will be pruned. Thus, Deadpool will lose his family. In the first trailer, you see him just hanging out with all of the old crew from Deadpool 1 and 2. Everyone except for Zazie Beetz, unfortunately. I didn't see her in either of these trailers as Domino. But yeah, it looks like Deadpool is really trying to do this primarily to save his family. So it's just interesting to see that, this trailer is giving us less of the story and more about the characters, which again, with these two characters and with this movie in particular, there's not a whole lot they had to do to sell us. Now, on the flip side, whenever we finally get a Fantastic Four trailer, that shit better be balls to the fucking walls, because I am not sold on that movie at all. Let's continue.
Trust me, kid, I'm no hero.
There was the Easter egg just there about Layfield's just feet. That is a hilarious Easter egg. If you understand the reference there. So Rob Liefeld, he's the guy who created Deadpool and Cable. And he is a writer, artist. He gets a lot of flack. he takes a lot of shit. Some of it's earned. Maybe some of it not so much, But people often talk about his art style. His characters carry a lot of pouches, have a lot of huge guns, are overly muscular, even for comic book characters. His women's proportions make 0 sense. Again, even for comic book characters, make 0 sense. And he is also notoriously known for avoiding drawing feet or drawing like the most obscure, odd-looking feet that you will ever see. And again, more times than not, you just won't see feet on any of the characters. They'll be obscured or covered or out of shot or out of the panel. And so that's one of the things that people just kind of give Rob Liefeld shit over, is the fact that he just can't draw feet. I think if I remember correctly, Rob Liefeld said that he never actually took an anatomy class. Like most comic book writers, at least like the really good ones, they take anatomy classes to understand not just the look, but like how the human body moves and the proportions and whatnot. From what I understand, Rob never took one of those classes. And that's not me shitting on him. That's just me repeating, what I'm pretty certain I've heard him state before. I mean, hell, he's still a better artist than I am, so I've got no room to talk, for what it means. So seeing that Rob Liefeld in this like destroyed set on this background has a shop called Liefeld's Just Feet is pretty hilarious.
You were an X-Man. You were the X-Man.
Really quick here. You know what? Because there is something a little off-putting, right, about seeing Hugh in the red and yellow. Red and yellow. I think he's Hulk Hogan in the blue and yellow. Well, let me tell you something, Bob. The thing that's off-putting about it is, and I just put it together, it's the shoulder pads. He doesn't have his shoulder pads there. And I'm not trying to nitpick because it looks great and I'm loving it. But that's what's throwing me off here about it. He doesn't have like those, like the shoulder pauldrons to go along with the rest of the look. It looks like it's literally the exact same suit that we see in the first trailer with the long sleeves. And it looks like he just cut the sleeves off of that. So, yeah.
I am soaking wet right now.
Great shit. We get our first shot there of Cassandra Nova. And then we also get a shot, or actually several more shots of Deadpool and Wolverine fighting. I think it was at CinemaCon that happened just recently. Obviously, people weren't allowed to film there for obvious reasons. They showed about 9 minutes of footage from Deadpool 3, and I think they said it was it the first 9 minutes, or it may not have been the first 9 minutes, but it was apparently a straight 9-minute chunk of the movie. And for obvious reasons, I'm not gonna go and just recite the shit that I saw or read on that. Who knows? That shit could be fake anyway. But I just wanted to mention one, and this is a small thing, right? I don't think that this is going to ruin anything, but apparently Deadpool was gifted adamantium swords, which is why his swords aren't like cracking or breaking in this fight here against Wolverine. And also, that's just kind of a cool thing to do. You kind of want to beef him up so he stands more of a chance against Wolverine. Even though Wade has potentially a better healing factor than Wolverine, he does not have a adamantium skeleton, so in terms of durability, the edge still goes to Wolverine. It's interesting though, because in terms of healing, the edge still goes to Deadpool. But yeah, just want to mention the cool looking fights going on here. We see them murking mercs, and we also see them beating the shit out of each other again. Just really good shit.
So silly.
This is what I'm talking about.
Boy, this shot right here, this is probably one of the money shots here in the trailer. A giant dead Ant-Man. And they have taken some people have taken refuge within like the dead skeletal remains of what I'm assuming is, I guess it could be Hank Pym. We don't know. It could be Hank Pym or Scott Lang. Who knows? But that is fascinating, right? That is also taken from the Old Man Logan comics. There is a scene there where we see a giant deceased Ant-Man. And I think they called it Pym Falls, if I remember correctly. I remember that because I thought that was a pretty clever name for that location where, because what are you going to do with like the giant dead body of Hank Pym? You're going to move it somewhere? What are you going to do with it? Also in this scene, we get some other shots here. We see Azazel, who we have not seen that motherfucker since X-Men First Class. And he was kind of one of my favorites in First Class, like he didn't get any lines. He didn't really have a whole lot to do. He was just, people call him like the Red Nightcrawler, which is kind of fair, but kind of isn't. He is Nightcrawler's dad. And side note, it is interesting that First Class had Nightcrawler's dad, Azazel, and his mom, Mystique, in the movie, and they never really do anything with that, but hell, who knows? Besides seeing Azazel come back, we also see fucking Lady Deathstrike. We haven't seen her since X2. My goodness. Yeah, so that is definitely something. I'm sure that there's other people we see here in this shot, but I can't really zoom in right now. I'm looking at the trailer on my phone, and so I can't really zoom in to get a better glimpse of any of the other mutants here. I think we do see Pyro there again in the background. That looks like him. I'm assuming that maybe these are all mutants that probably work for or with Cassandra Nova. You know, maybe she convinced them, hey, you come work for me and I won't fucking kill you or something. Who knows? Because it looks like it's only the baddies that are in this shot here. But again, that's just a cool looking shot of poor Hank Pym. Poor deceased, dead as hell Hank Pym or Scott Lang. Poor dead Ant-Man. How about that? And just seeing that them use the corpse as a fucking home base, that's pretty fucking great.
Big slow motion action sequence. Who knows if you live or die?
I love that shot of Wolverine trying to attack Cassandra Nova and the shit just isn't working at all. So it's been a couple of weeks now since we got that episode of X-Men 97. The episode 5 where the internet collectively lost their shit. And great episode, right? I theorized about who could have been behind it. I threw out names such as Bastion or Nimrod because those are two very hardcore X-Men villains who are certainly Sentinel adjacent, to say the least, and who, you know, kind of have that power scaling to do such a thing. The internet guessed Cassandra Nova, which also, you know, it tracks in terms of comic book canon, but in terms of like where the show is, I don't know if they're in a place to introduce Cassandra Nova. If you saw the latest episode, then we know that it's neither. But if you haven't seen the latest episode of X-Men 97, then I won't spoil it here. Again, we'll be covering a batch of those episodes in a little bit, so we'll get caught up on that. But the whole reason I mentioned that is because Cassandra Nova in the comics, she does destroy Genosha, and she kills millions of mutants. I forget exactly how many. Was it 13 million mutants? It was some astronomical number of mutants that Cassandra was responsible for just obliterating. If you guys want to read that, check out Grant Morrison's new X-Men run. I think that was a really, really good stretch of X-Men comics. But yeah, she was definitely one of the most vile villains of all time. And so they definitely utilized what Cassandra did in the comic books, and they repurposed it for the X-Men 97 show, which clearly had great effects on the fan base. But, you know, just seeing Wolverine here trying to attack Cassandra Nova to no avail was pretty cool, right? Like, seeing her fucking telekinetically disable Wolverine is pretty cool.
Let's fucking go!
Let's fucking go.
Boy, am I crazy, or is that a Doctor Strange portal that these two are jumping through? I mean, that looks identical to a Doctor Strange portal. Man, I mean, it makes you wonder, you know, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, Doc Strange and America Chavez, they certainly went portal hopping quite a bit. I mean, who knows? Maybe this is like because this looks like the same place where Wolverine was just trying to fight Cassandra Nova. It looks like a very similar location to where that fight was taking place at. So maybe the fight is not going well at all for Wolverine and Deadpool, and they need to retreat. And who knows? Maybe Doctor Strange or a Doctor Strange opens up a portal for those two to go through. You know, I'm again all speculation here, all speculation. But I mean that look for a portal is unmistakable. Like, we've only ever seen that associated with Stephen Strange.
Want to do some cocaine?
Hey, cocaine is the one thing that Feige said is off limits.
What about Bolivian marching powder?
They know all the slang terms. They have a list.
Even snowboarding?
So, did you guys hear what I hear? Did he say Foggy? Like, did he say that Foggy said that he couldn't? Let's go back and listen one more time.
Want to do some cocaine?
Hey, cocaine is the one thing that Feige said is off limits.
What about...
I could be wrong, but it sounds like he said that's the one thing Foggy said is off limits. Like, are we talking about Foggy from Daredevil? Foggy Nelson? I mean, again, like, you know, we know that Foggy's coming back for Deadpool Born Again. Deadpool, Jesus Christ. For Daredevil Born Again. But I don't know, it's just, that'd be interesting, right? Like, if this Deadpool have Foggy Nelson on the retainer? Does he have a lawyer? I don't know. Anyways, it's also great seeing Blind Al return. She's been utilized greatly here in these Deadpool movies.
Bolivian marching powder?
They know all the slang terms. They have a list.
Even snowboarding?
Even disco dust.
White girl interrupted?
Even forest bump.
Do you want to build a snowman?
Yes! But I can't.
And there we have it. That is the trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine. Even though they just displayed the release date, I already forgot it. I think it just said July, or did it give the full date? Let me see. July 26th. There it goes. Yeah. So July 26th is the release date for the movie. So we still got approximately 3 months. Yeah, April to May, May to June, June to July. So yeah, we still got about 3 months before it comes out. And who knows, by that time, I'm in the point right now of like thinking about like the comic books that I want to cover for the next chunk of the year. And I was thinking about doing some new X-Men run so I can talk about Cassandra Nova. And also the X-Men are kind of like the hot ticket item right now. So it's kind of like a win-win. I just have to really pick my spots with that one because, man, Grant Morrison is not the most approachable in terms of his writing style sometimes. But I still think that'd be a lot of fun to do. There was also, obviously, The Crow. I still wanted to read and review that comic book as well. The homie Oz currently has that copy in his possession. And but that one can actually be pushed back a little bit now because the movie has been pushed back. I think to August, something like that. It's been pushed back up by a couple of months or so. I think it was due out in June, and now it's coming out in, I want to say, August. So yeah, there's still different options that I'm toying around with right now, but I think that new X-Men, the Cassandra Nova portion would be kind of fun. Going over her weird ass convoluted origin would be fun as well. But yeah, that is kind of all that we have for today's trailer breakdown. But this right here, I still think is a really, really cool trailer, right? We don't get a whole lot in terms of Easter eggs. And again, I think that's fine because this movie does not have to do a whole lot of work to sell this movie, as I've said repeatedly throughout this podcast. All this trailer really has to do is reinforce that, you know, Wade and Wolverine have a very strained buddy cop friendship throughout this movie, that there's going to be a lot of high octane action. And, we know they're working with the TVA. And I mean, honestly, like the rest will come when we see the movie. And I am actually fine with that. So, yeah, I think that's all I got for this one, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this trailer breakdown. I am looking forward to finally seeing this movie. Like some of you out there, this is my most anticipated movie of the year. I don't know if technically it would be the best movie of the year, but I have a strong suspicion that it will be my favorite movie of the year. in terms of just overall enjoyment and revitalizing people's viewpoint or optimism in the MCU. I think it could do wonders for that as well. We know that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is currently really trying hard to retool certain things. They've pushed back certain things such as Armor Wars or whatnot. But these things are still due out. They just recently finished wrapping the Wonder Man TV show, which honestly I didn't know they were still doing that. And even now I'm wondering, like, to what point, like, are they going to use Wonder Man after this? You know, is he still going to be in the in the greater MCU? Are we going to see him do anything? You know, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, homies, that is all I got for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I had a blast with this. Watching the Deadpool trailer once again, kind of thinking about what could be going on. There's still a whole lot of theories going around out there about what could be happening. I do think that we get Daphne Keene as X-23 in this trailer. I mean, in this movie. I'll throw out another wild card out there. I think that maybe we get Lady Deadpool. I mean, we see Dogpool in the trailer. I forgot to mention him, but we do see a version of Dogpool in the trailer with his fucking weird ass tongue. Yeah, I think that we get other variants of the X-Men. There have been people theorizing that we get Channing Tatum's Gambit, which I'm like, can we not get Taylor Kitsch? Because I actually really like his Gambit in X-Men Origins. Certainly better or preferable to what Channing Tatum would have done with the role, right? Anyways, enough of that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. If you guys have any kind of questions, comments, gifts, threats, food, supplies, you know what to do. You can simply hit us up at superherohomies@gmail.com or any of the social media outlets. I am always active, live, and listening. But homies, that is all for now. I will see you guys again soon. We'll be covering Fallout pretty soon also. So go ahead and catch up on that show if you haven't done so. And I will see you guys next time.